So Iron Blooded Orphans is back, and it's back to following the same old structure as the last season. We get one episode that has quite a bit of action, and then a second episode that just kind of involves a lot of talking and character development. And this one was the talking and character development, which I was surprised about. I mean, the last episode, yeah, we did get quite a bit of fighting, but we didn't get to see Barbatos Lupus in action properly. He just appeared in the last seconds. In this episode, we got to see Barbatos Lupus a lot clearer. It felt like they rushed out the first episode. I mean, this is the first time I've seen a series where the first episode looks worse than the second one. But that's what it felt like to me. Maybe they spent too much time animating the rest of the fights, but when Barbatos showed up, it was very cloud covered. Or maybe they just didn't want to reveal him straight away. But in this one, goddamn, he looked so much better even in the dust clouds. So I really liked that. But the fight was over ridiculously quickly, with Mikazuki essentially doing one or two swings, taking out a couple of people, and then overworking Barbatos Lupus already. Which is just ridiculous, man. It's supposed to be such a new, intense frame, and he just destroyed it that quickly. Oh, man. So that was ridiculous. And I didn't expect it. I really expected this one to be the one with a lot of fights. Since the last episode, even though there were quite a few fights, there was also a lot of talking, a lot of character development through time skips and montages. So even though we didn't get a lot of character interaction time, we found out a lot was what was going on. Plus, it was the first episode, so they needed to put in a big fight. But yeah, this was the character development one. And it was good. I mean, we got introductions to our character that I was really interested in, Hash. Which I really liked. Because he went through his whole sob story, I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it that. Because of that amazing moment when he did go through his sob story right in front of Dean. And I mean, his sob story is sad. I mean, the idea that they were all living in the slums. He had the one big brother that everybody looked up to, who tried to go out and become a soldier and bring back a good income for them and raise their quality of living. But the spike didn't work, and he became industrial waste and just literally ended up killing himself to get rid of himself so he wasn't in everyone's way. Because suddenly he was paralyzed from the waist down. He couldn't do anything, even though he was supposed to be the big brother everyone looked up to. Oh, man. That is horrible. That is actually really sad and disgusting. And I'm sure Hash is like mentally scarred by all that shit. You can see how pissed he is at Mikazuki for the idea that Mikazuki's got so many spikes in him, survived the surgery so many times, whereas his big brother just essentially didn't, even once. And that knowledge there, which Hash doesn't even know, but Hash heard there was a small kid that actually had the surgery multiple times and survived it each time and just kept going. And little does he know that actually that was Mikazuki. Because we see that flash of Mikazuki. Or maybe that's actually Hash's mind thinking about it and connecting it to Mikazuki rather than it actually being Mikazuki that was with the big brother. Either way, it was really sad that that kid ended up killing himself, and Hash feels horrible about it and is essentially trying to fill his big brother's boots. He's trying to go out and become a soldier and earn a good living for his little brothers and send some money home to them so they don't have to just eat garbage every day. But what was brilliant about this, and it was something that was throughout this episode, is that as soon as he told this story, like, Dean was listening to all of it. Dean, this big bear of a man. And once Hash was finished, he kind of just looked down at Dean as if to say, okay, you can tell me how sad that is now. You can cry. Dean just, like, stands up, starts walking away. And as he calls out to him, Dean's just like, oh, good luck. And just keeps walking. Gives zero fucks. Because this is something the new line of pilots don't seem to get. Or I should say the new members of Tekkadan, because they're not all pilots, as Hash so painfully knows. The fact that they all have these sob stories, the fact that they've all come from horrible, terrible pasts. I mean, Hash is thinking about it as, oh, how dare you survive the surgery when my brother died? There's nothing that special about you. But what he should be realizing is that Mikazuki was forced into the surgery so many times that he was like the brother as well. He just got lucky enough to survive it each time. And each time he had to fight on as industrial waste. He had to keep going. So yeah, I'm not sure which direction Hash's story is going to take him in. I mean, in the opening, we see, like, everybody else bonding. We see him get really pissed off just looking up at Mikazuki getting into Barbatos. So, yeah, I think they need to give him a goddamn mobile suit. I mean, he doesn't have any training yet, but he's working his ass off to read through the manuals and to learn everything. And I think if they don't give him a mobile suit within a certain amount of time, he's going to end up turning traitor on them. Like, the first enemy person that comes forward and says, hey, we'll give you a mobile suit. I mean, especially since we have Space Hitler coming in this episode, walking around the facilities and working with Tekkadan again. What could happen is Farid McGillis, Chocolate Man, could end up offering Hash to actually join him to be the new Iron kind of thing. To go to Farid and actually get a Gundam frame rather than the mobile suit, since Farid seems to be able to find them whenever he needs them. And, you know, then they could actually work together. They could still be working technically on Tekkadan's side, but with him completely under Farid's control rather than Tekkadan, and that would be a loss for them. But yeah, I definitely liked that part of the episode, because like I said, Dean just walking away, giving zero fucks was so good. And at the same time, you had the new line of mobile worker pilots who were so distraught by the fact that they'd actually seen people die. Like, they were happy with the idea of putting their own lives on the line, but actually surviving it, coming back, and realizing so many others were dead and died for Tekkadan really got to them. And you had Akihiko essentially telling them, just grin and bear it, keep moving on. They didn't seem to realize that everybody there is there because of so many sacrifices. I mean, especially when they came to Earth and were holding the goddamn bridge at the end of the last season. There were so many people that died there. So that was deep, man. It was deep. And the interpersonal relationships are getting real too, man. Oh, Mikazuki and Cordelia. They were so awkward together in this episode. You can tell they've been spending a lot of time away from each other. It seems like Cordelia's really trying to distance herself. Because in this episode, she did actually come to see Mikazuki, and it was just like back to the beginning of season 1 kind of thing. You had the mechanic telling Mikazuki, go speak to her, go walk with her. And him just literally being like, why? Whereas towards the end of the first season, he was taken in that whole Naze Turbine kind of thought process and acting like Cordelia and Atra were both his wives. Whereas now he's just back to the, why should I speak to her? Why should I talk to her kind of thing. Like, maybe he just saw it as part of his mission, that he had to get her safely to Earth, and now that he's done that, he's done with the mission, so he doesn't have any reason to speak to her anymore. But man, that was sad. Just to see them breaking up like that. To see Atra still trying to keep the trio together. Giving Cordelia her own little wristband. Oh, man. Then Cordelia was so happy when she got the wristband as well. And actually got invited to follow them when they cleaned them. So yeah, I think Cordelia is going to end up distancing herself from Tekkadan in general. Especially with that new ending, which is amazing, by the way. I mean, the opening was already incredible. I love the new opening. But then we've got Grand Rodeo and the ending as well. Oh, sounds so good. There's so many nice flashes from their childhood. And that's another thing that suggests there's got to be distance gaining between Cordelia and the others. I mean, they didn't need to put Cordelia in this ending, because it was mostly focused on the childhood of the orphans. But they made sure to juxtapose that fact with, like, them on the streets, eating garbage, doing what they can to survive, with Cordelia just walking around happily with an umbrella and chilling. Oh, man. So, yeah, it just suggests to me that they came from such different styles, like, of life, just completely different walks of life, that maybe they are going to end up distancing each other at the end of this as well. So that sucks, but you know, this episode was good in general because it did have so much development. Goddamn Chocolate Man is moving in on Tekkadan. He already sent Space Hitler to chat to them, and I was amazed at how chilled Eugene has become. Like, he was just joking back and forth with Space Hitler rather than getting really pissed at him like he did before. So yeah, he's really grown as a person, learned to understand that you don't have to always be angry, that you can think from the logical perspective of the fact that even though they've had fucked up pasts, he can still be useful to them in the future. Oh man, but yeah, you have McGillis like working his way in, giving Tekkadan the job that they were already going to end up doing anyway, so they're going to get paid for it now, and they're more intensely focused on it, and at the same time, he's also leading the Aryan Rod out there to deal with the space pirates because it helps him as well. So it is this kind of thing where right now they do have a joint partnership going in. It's just all going to get fucked up when the Aryan Rod and Tekkadan actually run into each other. Oh man, since the Aryan Rod hate Tekkadan, I would assume, from them like taking away their contracts and breaking through the Aryan Rod way back when in season 1. Plus the fact that now, oh god, it's so bad. Iron Mask has shown up, finally. I mean, we saw him in the opening last week, and I still think it's Gali. It's got to be Galio, man. And he's guiding Rustle on how to deal with McGillis. So I'm thinking when Iron Mask, as I'm calling him, I don't know what they're actually going to call him. I don't think they mentioned his name in this one. But Julieta really doesn't trust him, realizes that he has his own ulterior motives. And as soon as they meet up with Tekkadan at any point, you know Galio is going to be pissed. Because he ended up being betrayed by McGillis for Tekkadan. Like, he traded up, essentially. Got rid of his friends, got rid of his old allies, and switched to Tekkadan's side. So I imagine as soon as they see each other, Iron Mask is going in! And he's probably going to bring the Aryan Rod into it as well. I mean, they probably won't need much swaying. Because, yeah, like I said, they've been taking away their contracts. They've been making them look like fools. And they already broke through the Aryan Rod fleet once. So it's an honor thing as well. Oh, so this is so good. I mean, I'm sure McGillis is going to try to keep them away from each other. Like, he's going to try to keep Tekkadan on Mars and do their own space battles by themselves. But, yeah, it's going to get intense. They're definitely going to run into each other at some point. It's going to become a huge dogfight. I can't wait for that. That's going to be the big, big battle. At the same time, we have more politics going on because we have the Earth side of Tekkadan who are getting essentially tired of the Mars side shit. Like, the Earth side of Tekkadan are doing really well getting their general military contacts, doing whatever they are doing on Earth. I mean, we haven't been shown exactly what they're doing, but I'm guessing they're using mobile workers and frames just to essentially probably just do what Gjallarhorn were doing before, just the general military policing. So yeah, that's going well. Oh man. And we have the blonde kid there with his sister, the one who was so girly, who actually deserved a nice peaceful life. I'm glad. Like, he's able to put his little sister to school and have that chilled kind of scenario where he is just, you know, doing normal work, not in dogfights anymore, not having to see all of his friends die. He's on the peaceful side of things. And at the same time, we have Chad, who's dealing with the people who just want to completely break away from the Mars side of Tekkadan and just ignore them, even though they're asking for aid and resources. Oh, man. So, yeah, this episode is good. They're setting up, like, a whole bunch of political and interpersonal relationships that are slowly breaking apart. People are going to end up going their separate ways. There's going to be huge amounts of fighting going on. So yeah, great episode. Lots of stuff being built up. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know what you think is going to go on with, like, Iron Mask, whose name we need to find out eventually, whatever he's calling himself, Rusto, Julieta, and Eok. And, like, their side with McGillis and Tekkadan falling apart within each other. What do you think is going to happen with Hash? Do you think he's going to end up, like, stealing a mobile suit by himself, piloting it? Do you think he's going to end up trying to get the spike, even though he's too old for it? Just let me know your thoughts on what you think is going to go down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this review, wreck that like button like you mean it. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more. And I will see you guys next time.